All right, so get ready because we're going to be diving into something that sparked a lot of discussion online. One of you wrote in and asked, is it true that women can have multiple orgasms during sex? And to figure that out, we took a deep dive into a Reddit thread with all kinds of different opinions.
You know, what I think is really interesting about this thread is how it shows that human sexuality is so diverse. It really challenges this idea that there's just one female experience.
Yeah, definitely. There were some women who were sharing stories about having like 12 orgasms in one session,
Wow.
and then others were saying they hardly ever have multiple orgasms, if ever.
Yeah.
So right away, we can see there's a whole spectrum of experiences, not just a yes or no answer.
For sure. And it's important to recognize that right from the start. So to kind of figure out what might be going on here, let's talk about the science for a second. You've probably heard about the refractory period that men experience after orgasm.
Mhm.
This basically means their body needs some time to recover before they can physically have another orgasm.
So like a reset button for their.
Exactly. But women, on the other hand, don't have the same biological limitation.
Okay.
Their physiology makes it possible for them to have multiple orgasms in a shorter amount of time.
So biologically, it is possible. But what about all the other things that might be involved? For example, the Reddit thread had a lot of comments about how important the partner is.
Absolutely. Many women were saying that having a partner who pays attention to their needs, who understands what feels good, plays a really big role in their ability to have multiple orgasms. One woman even talked about how a new partner helped her experience multiple orgasms for the first time ever after being divorced.
Wow, that's amazing. It really shows how connected everything is. It's not just about the physical part, but also the emotional connection and how well you communicate in the relationship.
Exactly. And when you read through those comments, you start to see that mood and mental state are also really important factors. Some women mentioned how alcohol can affect their ability to have multiple orgasms, for instance.
Oh, that's interesting. It seems like it could go either way depending on how it affects you, right?
Right.
Some people feel more relaxed and in the mood, while others might feel less sensitive.
Exactly. And there were even comments about how certain medications can have an impact. One woman described how a medication temporarily made her really sensitive, which led to like a bunch of spontaneous orgasms throughout the day.
Oh, wow. That sounds pretty intense. But it definitely shows how much individual variation there is and how these experiences are shaped by so much more than just biology.
Yeah, it really does. And that kind of leads us to something that people kept bringing up in the thread, communication. Lots of women talked about how important it is to be open and honest with their partner about what they need, especially when it comes to having multiple orgasms.
Yeah, that makes it like knowing what you need and being able to tell your partner without feeling awkward or shy seems super important.
It really is. One woman even said, the best technique isn't about gender or size or anything like that. It's trust. And I thought that was really powerful because it kind of shows just how much intimacy and vulnerability are involved.
So it sounds like there's no simple answer for our listener who asked this question. Biologically, it's possible to have multiple orgasms, but there are so many other things that come into play, and it's different for everyone.
You got it. It's complicated. And I think this thread does a good job of showing just how complex it really is. It's like a combination of biology, psychology, emotional connection, and being able to talk openly with each other.
It's almost like baking a cake. You need the right ingredients in the right amounts. Speaking of, what stood out to you as being particularly interesting or surprising in this Reddit deep dive?
Let me think. You know what really struck me was how open and honest people were about their experiences. This is a topic that can be kind of hush-hush. But here you have people talking about their orgasms, their struggles, what they want, all out in the open.
I know, it was really cool. It's not every day you get to hear such frank conversations about female pleasure, especially not in a public forum like that.
Yeah,
I think it was really validating for a lot of people to see that they're not alone in their experiences.
totally. And it also reinforces the point that everyone's experience with sexuality is different. There's not just one story, no right or wrong way to feel pleasure.
Exactly. Some women were perfectly happy with having one orgasm, while others were like actively trying to figure out how to have multiple ones,
Mm-hmm.
and both are totally okay. It all comes down to what feels good and right for you.
Couldn't agree more. And I think one of the biggest takeaways here is that we need to create more spaces where people feel safe and comfortable exploring their sexuality without judgment or pressure.
100%. At the end of the day, pleasure is a personal thing. What feels amazing for one person might not do anything for someone else, and that's perfectly fine.
It really is. It's about figuring out what works for you and your partner and being open to learning and growing together.
And communication seems to be like the key ingredient that ties everything together. Like one woman said that just talking to her partner about her needs completely changed her experience. It's powerful stuff.
You're so right. Communication is essential in any relationship, but it's even more important when it comes to something as intimate and vulnerable as sex.
It's wild to think that we started with this question about multiple orgasms, and now we're having this wider conversation about female sexuality, pleasure, and how important it is to communicate openly.
That's the great thing about these deep dives. They often take us in unexpected directions, make us question what we thought we knew, and help us understand things in new ways.
Yeah, it really makes you realize how much we can learn from each other when we're willing to share our experiences, even the ones that might feel a little taboo or like you shouldn't talk about them.
For sure. It's like that Reddit thread gave people a safe place to think about their own sexuality and learn from others who might have totally different points of view.
And you never know, maybe it even inspired some listeners to have those conversations with their partners.
I hope so, because ultimately, when there's more understanding and communication, it can lead to more fulfilling and enjoyable experiences for everybody involved.
This whole deep dive has been a real eye-opener for me. It's kind of amazing how a simple question about multiple orgasms took us down such an interesting path.
It really just shows you that there's always more to discover when it comes to human sexuality, and we shouldn't be afraid to ask questions, challenge our assumptions, and consider different perspectives.
And for those of you listening who want to keep exploring this topic, I definitely recommend checking out Shauna Polish's YouTube channel. She's got a ton of amazing content that goes deep into all kinds of cool stuff, including sexuality and relationships.
Absolutely. And don't forget to subscribe to Voices of the Soul wherever you get your podcasts so you don't miss any future deep dives.
Thanks for coming along on this exploration with us. And keep those questions coming. We'll be back soon with another deep dive into a topic that'll get you thinking.